Hey everybody, it's Never, and welcome to Commuting with Never, in which I talk to everyone while I am driving to or from work, because that's really just kind of a giant drain on the time in my life. So today was quite a day. We had an expansion announcement, and I'm going to attempt to tell you my thoughts and feelings about that in as genuine and unbiased a way as possible. I've had a few hours to sort of dissect the information that I've heard and form some opinions about it, and I want to tell you what I really think before a lot of hive mind or bandwagoning starts going on with the perception of this. My initial thoughts on the expansion are good. I think it has the potential to be a lot of fun. I was left with a very similar feeling to Burning Crusade, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think this expansion is like a superhero that is going to save the subscriber base and bring us back to 12 million subs, but I certainly think it's going to be better than what we've had, and I think it's going to be good. It hinges on a couple of things, and I'll address each specific item individually as we go, but the things that it hinges on overall are how well will they deliver on the things that they're demonstrating now. That's one thing I hope Blizzard has learned, is that you can't show Farallon and then not do it. It's gotta happen or people will hate it, and you don't want people hating it. And the other thing that it hinges on is how much are these features going to interfere with our normal way of life and gameplay, and I'll get back into that with a couple of them. So initially, the big thing that is going on with this is the new class, the Demon Hunter. This has been something that fans have asked for a very long time. It's sort of a fan service thing to do, and there's a few things in this expansion that seem like they're fan service, and I'm frankly all right with that. I think that a purely fan service installment of anything that is episodic like this is a good thing to do, and it makes the players feel like you really are listening to them. And so far, it seems like they're listening to us. I'll come back to Demon Hunters, but some of the features that have been announced that haven't been very broadcast are the new transmogging system, in which it specifically says we'll be able to learn item appearances and save them as sets without needing to use any inventory storage. So that tells me, or I'm deducing, that means that we learn the appearances of items, store them in a big sort of tab on our collections thing, and we can put them together into appearance sets and then just choose which one we want to use. I think that would be awesome. I certainly hope that they allow a little bit more leeway with transmogrification, and I will come back to one thing to do with that in a little bit. So Demon Hunters. Only having 2 specs, I can see a lot of people being upset by this. However, I don't think we've heard the whole story yet, because I think that there's going to be some other specs out there that are going to get some revamping. One of them is Demonology Warlocks. They've already said they're going to rework how Demonology works. Well, now we know why, because Metamorphosis and Demonic Power or Demonic Fury, well, those are going up into Demon Hunters. So what's Demonology going to do? I frankly have no idea. But if I had to guess, it's going to be a little more about your demons working for you and you commanding them, and a little less about you turning into a demon yourself. I think that some of the abilities will still be the same, but they may it may go back to sort of a caster form thing all the time rather than demon form. It'll be interesting, and we'll just have to wait and see. Double jump, I really wish that this is like the #1 thing I'm jealous of that Demon Hunters are getting, is double jump is so cool. I really missed it when I came back to World of Warcraft from WildStar, because it just feels right. I don't know why. Double jump just feels like something you should be able to do in games. I mean, not having double jump after having it is almost as bad as going to a game where you can't jump at all. And I'll tell you what, games where you can't jump at all, what is going on with that? It just really shouldn't be a thing. You have to be able to jump around like an idiot, or you're gonna have a bad time. So, Demon Hunters, the other abilities they showed looked fine. I think that they seem like a really well put together class. 1 DPS spec and 1 tank spec will not solve the problem of tanking, because the problem of tanking is it's a social thing, it's not a gameplay or a design thing. And I'm okay with that. And mostly it's selfishly because I'm a tank. And that means that if tanks are always in high demand, I always get that bonus reward and I always get fast queues and everyone's happy to see me. So there's that. One DPS spec, I mean, really, what are you going to do? The only reason that some classes have 3 specs is because the others had 3 specs when the game came out and they didn't want some classes to have fewer specs than others. So, should Demon Hunter have a 3rd spec? Maybe, who knows? I mean, Druids have a 4th spec, Warriors practically have a 4th spec. And speaking of specs, how about that little hint for Survival Hunters, huh? The Survival Hunter weapon, the artifact weapon for them, is a polearm, which tells me that Survival Hunters are probably going to be going into a melee spec, which is really interesting. And it means I wonder what other changes might be around the way. We've already got Demonology Warlocks changing pretty significantly, and it looks like Survival Hunters might be right along those same lines. So what other changes are in the way for us? Could Fire Mages be getting a little bit of a more melee feel to them? Probably not, but you never know. It's an interesting time, and it seems like Blizzard is doing one of the things they do best, and that is taking risks. Blizzard is very good about going about things and seeing what comes of it. If it doesn't work, oh darn. If it does, hooray. Some of the best features in the game were risks that they took that worked out. Some of the worst features in the game were the risks they took that turned out bad. Ashran. Anyway, so back on to some other stuff. So the Demon Hunter, I think another hero class is good because it means that the Death Knight doesn't feel like an anomaly, and I think it's really going to satisfy a lot of things that some players need. The only thing that doesn't make a ton of sense with it is if we really needed another class, we didn't need a class that used pole arms and leather. We needed a class that uses mail and ranged weapons to make those go around a little more. I wonder how people would feel if they just combined mail and leather gear into a single armor type and open that up a little bit. But then there's the ranged weapons. What do we do with them? Maybe they're bringing back a ranged weapon slot and melee weapon slots, which I would honestly be okay with. Maybe your artifact weapon goes into a new slot and you still have regular weapons and you've got some options there. It's hard to tell. I certainly hope that the artifact weapon, which, let me just start off with this, I think the artifact weapon is a really cool idea, but I can foresee a couple of things that might make it really sucky. Number one, I hope that you can transmog that thing. Not that I really would, especially being a druid and wanting some awesome new druid forms, but I hope you can transmog that thing or in some other way choose not to see it but still get its benefits, because I don't think everybody's going to want to see that weapon all the time. Personally, if I was a Ret Paladin, Ashbringer, I'm not really thrilled with the appearance of that weapon. Some people really like it, but I've just never been much of a fan. I think it's neat and whatever, but I wouldn't want to display it all the time. So I hope there's some options there. Along with that, it would be cool if we could finally transmog legendary weapons. I can understand why Blizzard hasn't allowed that to happen in the past, but it's still something I would like to see. But artifact weapons, it sounds like one of the ways they're going to make dungeons last or more relevant is the fact that you use them to power up your weapon. And that's cool. I hope that there's more ways than just that to keep the dungeons relevant. I like that they're doing more dungeons, and I'll talk about dungeons in a minute. But artifact weapons, I think, are really cool and really have some neat things that they could bring to us. My other question is, especially for those of us that are druids or those of us who really spend a lot of time with that artifact weapon, what happens at the next expansion? Do I lose those druid forms if I'm not wielding that weapon? Or do I, if I can't transmog it, which, you know, it's almost like a legendary weapon. In fact, it seems like it's a little bigger of a deal than a legendary weapon. Where does that leave us? Are we then, you know, stuck without the weapon we like because it can't keep up? Is that going to be our weapon forevermore and we don't have any other weapons that are going to drop? What's going on here? Those are some of the big burning questions I have about artifact weapons is, how will they affect the existing things in the game? A new transmog system would kind of suggest that they're figuring out something to work with that, but they've been working on the new transmog system for a while. So artifact weapons leads me to the next sort of big thing, which is the class, what were they called? Class halls? Or class, anyway, I'll call them class halls. That's probably not what they're called. This is very reminiscent to me of something kind of like out of Elder Scrolls almost. And I think that these are going to be really cool. Let's clear up a couple of things that I was very careful to pay attention to and determine while this was being explained. These are not garrisons in the sense that they are going to isolate you from people. Rather, you are going to be there with players from both factions of your class. And you'll see them walking around doing their thing. There may be parts of it that are instanced, I would expect, just because of the way some of the stuff was displayed. But the most part, it's going to be like a little mini capital city for your class to be in. You will see other people, and your followers aren't going to be sent out on missions like in the garrison. Now, they will be sent out on missions, but you're going to have fewer followers. Each of them is going to be a bigger deal, more important, and then their missions are going to be precursors to enabling missions for you to do. I would like to think that this is going to be sort of a thing where you have a story with each of these characters, and you go on these quests and learn more about them and get some of their story, like BioWare does in a lot of their games, where you do the quest that the companion wants, and you learn some story about them as a reward. I want more rewards than just that, especially in World of Warcraft, but my point is, I would like that to be a mechanism to learn more about these characters. So it's not going to be a sit-by-yourself deal. We've also got Dalaran, which is the best capital city ever, in my opinion. And we're going to have all sorts of people running around there doing their thing. We're going to have duels in the sewers again. I imagine it's going to have some of the buildings from the garrison that we might have really liked. I can see being buildings in Dalaran. Dalaran's probably going to be a little bigger. There might be another, district added to it or something. And even if there isn't, it was still a big enough place for my taste. And there's going to be new secrets there to find. It's going to be great. Dalaran, I'm really looking forward to going back there. Even when Dalaran was current, I really liked it, and I was almost sad to see it go, because then it was like, oh, well, hello, Orgrimmar. And it wasn't even the old Orgrimmar, which in some ways was kind of cooler, because it was harder to figure out. Anyway, I digress. So I think the class halls, if that's what they're called, I think they're going to be really cool, and I don't think they're going to have the problems that garrisons did. I think they're going to have the good things from garrisons and not the bad things for the most part. That leads into just the overall zone and everything. Now, there's already one zone that was shown down in the bottom of it. I forget what it was called. It's not Dathramar, that's a blood elf, but it was something kind of like that. And that's on one map that is showing like a concept map, and then it's not in like the in-game looking map. And so some people are thinking it was already cut, and it may have been. Or maybe it's like a Timeless Isle sort of deal, and that's going to be something that comes in a later patch. I can hope so, and that's one of the things. If there was one lesson I want Blizzard to have learned from Warlords of Draenor, it's that you do not promise something and then not deliver it. I think that for the WoW community, that is especially true. For a lot of other communities, you can kind of get away with that, but it seems like this community is just like, we'll go on witch hunts if that sort of thing happens. So I really hope that Blizzard has learned their lesson with that, and that that does not become an issue. The rest of the zones, quite frankly, I think look really fun. They look amazing, they look really big, and they look like there's a lot to do in them. They remind me a lot of Northrend, which really, really makes me happy. I don't think there's a snowy zone, which kind of makes me sad because I really like snowy areas, but it wasn't High Mountain, it was the other one. It just looks absolutely gorgeous. And I'm super jealous of those Elkhorn Tauren. I really want some Elkhorns, so I can dream and I can hope that maybe, because Demon Hunters, I mean, let's talk about Demon Hunters here, okay? Well, they've got their different type of eyewear, cool, and they've got their different type of horns, cool, but they've also got, they've got to have some sort of mechanism that changes what they look like, and it's probably going to be like the Death Knight is, which is the skin change. And so they've got different skin types that are just for Demon Hunters. Well, then where are you going to do the horns? Maybe the horns are tied in with hair? I don't think people would like that very much, because they might want to have this hairstyle with those horns, and if they can't do that, it's going to piss people off. So they've also got their blindfold thing, which I could see is like in the place of facial hair, but that seems like it's losing some customization as well. So I can say that either Blizzard's kind of like half-hearting some of the stuff with the demon hunters. Maybe that'll be the overall feel with them if things go bad, is that it's like, oh well, just 2 specs and not very many appearance options. Their stuff's like, you know, kind of watered down or combined in ways they shouldn't be. I'd be surprised if they were going to do that. Instead, what I think is a little more likely, and what I'm certainly hoping for, is the fact that there may be another 1 or 2 different appearance options clickers to choose some other stuff, which would be really cool. I mean, you've also got the demon form, which looks like it can have some variety to it. So I guess what I'm hoping is that if the demon hunter has that, maybe we'll get super lucky and some of the other races will have some more stuff, because we sure need some new and some additional customization options. Elk horns on Taurens would be really awesome. So I'd like to see some more of that sort of stuff for all the races, just to give us some really cool variety there. The dungeons that were brought up, I think they look great. It'll be really hard to tell anything about them until we find out how difficult they are, what sort of lasting usefulness they're going to have, that sort of stuff. Are we going to have more challenge modes, or is that a thing of the past? Do the challenge mode weapons even matter with the artifact weapons, especially if they're not transmoggable? So they probably really should be transmoggable, just because we're going to want to keep those weapons around. I still want a way to get the cycle armor from Mists of Pandaria challenge modes. I'd like to see challenge modes actually just change so that they scale you down from any level and any gear level, so that they're always the challenge they were, and you just do them that way in any expansion. Some people would be mad and say, well, I worked so hard and got this, and I can understand that, so just give me a recolor of the armor or something. I'm not a fan of things that leave the game forever. I don't think that should ever happen. I think that everything that's in the game should always be attainable by players if they're willing to put forth the effort. But yeah, not for me to decide. The raids, the raid structure, LFR, Flex, Heroic, and Mythic, yeah, it's not my favorite way to do things, but it does work pretty well. It's working so far, and raiding has been very easy to do, and still, you know, it's been challenging enough, but it's been easy to get people together and easy to handle logistically in Warlords of Draenor, so I can see why they're happy with that and why they're sticking with it. Having 2 raids initially announced is good. I'd still like to see the occasional single boss raid like Eye of Eternity or Obsidian Sanctum. I miss those, but we do have world bosses to deal with. I personally like the single boss raids more than the world bosses, so, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I really hope that's not all the raids. I really hope there's at least 1 more raid, ideally 2. I think 2 more would be a really nice thing, but you know, it's probably just going to be those 2 plus 1 more. If I had to make a guess on what the 3rd raid would be, is I think it would be essentially the Dark Below, Ajara, N'Zoth sort of thing, and that will lead us into the next expansion. I hope that's what it is, because I've wanted to see those things for so long, and there really hasn't ever been a better opportunity to explore those things. But either way, whatever it is, I really hope we get another raid after these 2. 2 raids for an expansion would be pretty weak. That leads me into the expected release time. So they said that the beta would start later this year, and that's fine. I'm expecting them to announce when the beta will start at BlizzCon. And so we go BlizzCon, and I forget exactly when BlizzCon is, but that would be a good place for them to announce it and to give more details on the features. They would have to spend less time initially telling us about the expansion, so we get more time talking about the features. Things will probably be a little more fleshed out in some ways there. I hope that artifact weapon specs and stuff like that don't get scrapped like Path of the Titans did. Again, Blizzard needs to learn that they can't announce something and then not do it. They've got to be really sure before they go ahead and talk about that stuff. It's a tough balance to find, but I would lean more toward the don't talk about it until you really know you're going to be doing it sort of thing. So I hope that they're following that. But if BlizzCon is fairly soon, and then we find out when the beta starts, if the beta starts, October, then you know, we've got 6 months of beta. It could be shorter. The beta doesn't have to be 6 months, but generally for most expansions it has been about that long. And if they're more feature complete on this expansion, then it could warrant a shorter beta. But you need time to get feedback and then to make adjustments based on that feedback. So I can still see, if we assume beta is going to last 6 months and it starts maybe October, November, we're still looking at a March, April release at the soonest, and probably more like a May, June release, which would be either right before, right at, or right after the movie comes out. And I think any of those times would be smart. I'm not sure what would be the best one, whether it's best to do before or after the movie, but either way, I think that that getting people interested in the game is a really good thing, and the movie's a good vehicle to do that, which leads me to another theory that I have, and this is tangenting off of the expansion for a moment to explain what I think Warlords of Draenor was. I think Warlords of Draenor was never meant to happen. I think that they were planning on doing the Broken Isles and the Legion expansion to come after Mists of Pandaria. But somewhere along the way, the movie got greenlit, and we were moving forward with that. And the opportunity was too good. We've got to put out an expansion that deals directly with the subject matter of the movie. How do we do that? Well, we could do this whole go back in time thing. Oh, and it ties in with the Timeless Isle so well. Yeah, that would be cool. And then after that, we could come back and do this other thing we've been starting to work on. And so they plan to do that, and that's great. And Warlords of Draenor, huzzah! And some stuff didn't work out so well. Frankly, I've had fun during this expansion. There's been some stuff to complain about, but maybe it's because I'm only, I don't play as much as I used to because I've got too much responsibility. I still play every day, well, pretty much every day, but either way, not everybody feels that way. There was things about the expansion I didn't like and I was disappointed with, but overall, I've had fun. Maybe this expansion gets a 6 out of 10 instead of an 8 or a 9 like Wrath of the Lich King was. But anyway, going back, and so they do that, and the movie's supposed to come out at a certain time, right around the time the expansion does, but the movie gets pushed back because of other movies, and maybe it's not done yet, and lots of reasons. And so, oh, well, okay, yeah, that's sucky, but, well, then the movie will come out during the expansion instead of at the start of it or whatever. And, no, can't bring the movie out because Star Wars, or it's not ready yet, or all these things. And so the movie gets pushed back again, and well, it's like we can't stick with Warlords of Draenor anymore because it wasn't meant to be this big long thing, because it was supposed to go with the movie and then we're going to get back to business. And it's easy to adjust. I mean, Warlords of Draenor, Grom's the last boss, and then some stuff changes because things change, because the movie schedule changed. And so then all of a sudden it's like, well, we better tie this in with the next expansion and make it seem like it was really, like it all fits together. Hello, Archimonde. Hello, Gold Daniel getting pushed through that portal and all this stuff. It's not hard to connect these dots in a lot of different ways. But that's the way they handled it, and I think they handled it well for what they had. But I think Warlords of Draenor has been so short and so much of an anomaly because it really is. It's not a typical expansion. It was developed concurrently with this other expansion. Yeah, it takes a while to add people to the WoW dev team, but what really takes a while is to develop 2 expansions at the same time. And it may have been one of those things where, well, we've got to really divert some people away from the new expansion to work on Warlords of Draenor. I mean, I don't know what happened internally in the office, but I'm speculating on some possible explanations. My whole overall point is that Warlords of Draenor was, I think, an anomaly because of the movie. And if the movie had never existed, neither would Warlords of Draenor. We would have gone from Mists of Pandaria directly into Legion. And because it would have worked just fine. And, it could have been Garrosh that finds finds Illidan or whatever. There's a lot of ways it could have gone down. But that's my theory on Warlords of Draenor. And because of that, I don't think the next expansion will have the same problems that Warlords of Draenor did, because I think Blizzard knows better, and it has been out of character for Blizzard to handle the expansion as poorly as they have in Warlords of Draenor. And that's what's been surprising to me, is that it's not the Blizzard that I know. The Blizzard that I know is they release when it's done, soon, you know, trademark, and all those sort of things. We haven't seen that Blizzard during Warlords of Draenor simply because I don't think they've had a choice. They've been dealing with the situation as best they can. Maybe not. Maybe they've all just gotten lazy and there's like, meh, who cares? It's just World of Warcraft. It's not making us all that much money anymore. Hearthstone, money pit. Or I guess like money tree, not pit. And so, you know, it could be any of those things. But anyway, back to the expansion, because that's what I think happened with Warlords of Draenor. So we're back here. Legion starting. It's kind of a weird name. I don't really care what the expansion's called, but it gets the job done. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be better than Warlords of Draenor, and I think it's going to be about like Burning Crusade level of cool. And I think that there's a lot of parallels here. There's parallels between it and Wrath of the Lich King, or between Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King with Legion in the way the features are, but I think in the way of how we will remember or perceive this expansion based on the information I have now, it reminds me a lot of Burning Crusade. We're stepping into a very Legion-heavy thing, but it's also kind of a brave new world with a lot of stuff that is alien to us, and yet still familiar at the same time. And there's a lot of old names coming back around, and some really new progression things, new PvP system, which I'll talk about in a minute. I think it's going to be really, really good. It may not be the best thing ever, but I think that subscriber numbers will recover a little, and probably if they bring out the expansion and if they live up to the expectation they've created in my mind with this reveal, subscriber numbers will continue to climb throughout this expansion and into the next one, if the next one isn't just a pile of crap. So let's hope for that. The PvP system. This is one of those amazing things. This is one of those risky things, like a really big one, because this PvP system could fall on its face and people could hate it because you need to weaken yourself by giving up your PvP talents in order to get the cosmetic rewards. So people that want to be the best won't be able to get the rewards. People that want to get the rewards are gimping themselves a little bit, maybe a lot, in order to be eligible for those. It's hard to tell, and we might get into this thing where, you know, let's say it takes a week of doing a pretty consistent amount of PvP to get one of those, I guess it'd be more like maybe a day or two to get one of those PvP levels. And so you got 50 of those levels. So let's imagine for 2 weeks, you're doing your PvP on a pretty regular basis, and then you can get all the way up to get another prestige level. Well, you get all your prestige, and then you go ahead and you're like, I want to rank up with my prestige. Okay, but now all of a sudden you got to level up again. So, well, hold on, you guys. Let me take the next week or two off from doing my ranked PvP, because I got to go farm these noobs to get my skills back so that I can go, you know, go hard again and have all the stuff I need to be competitive. That could be kind of a problem, and I can see some ways they could fix that. They could just make it so that when you redo your prestige, you then gain your abilities back a little quicker, or you go back and you only have the first set of them, so you still have some, but you don't have all the choices. It's hard to know. I think that maybe you just get prestige every time you do those levels that many times, and only the first time you do it, you work through those skills. Or maybe in order to change some of your skills, you've got to spend some honor and lose a level or some, I don't know. There's some ways they could do it, but I can foresee that being a problem with people, you know, feeling like they have to weaken themselves to advance and get the cosmetic rewards, which is really kind of unfortunate. I would like to think that it would take, you know, most of a season of fairly regular, at least regularly casual PvP to get all the way up on the prestige meter. And I'd like to see prestige reset every season. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. So that part of it, I can see some concerns with it. The other parts of it, the fact that gear won't make a very big difference, is one of the best things they could have ever done for PvP. Because PvP is not about gear. PvP is about player skill. And gear is it's something that throws a wrench in player skill. What we want is, when you beat someone in PvP, you want to know it's because you outplayed them. When they beat you, you want to know it's because they outplayed you, not because they just had better gear. And so this change is probably the best change they've ever made to PvP that I can remember in the game. I hope there's still dishonorable kills. I'd like to see those come back, just because I would like to see something of a deterrent from killing players that are gray to you. Because I like people ganking other people in the right setting. I really do. It's fun, and I don't even mind it when it happens to me if it's done tastefully. But when I'm leveling some alt and I'm like level 25 and some, you know, level 70 dude runs by and one-shots me, what's the point? Where's the fun in that? How is that fun for him other than feeling ridiculously powerful? But he does that anyway when he's in that zone where I am, and all it does is slow me down. It's not like, you know, he's going to stop the horde that way. It just seems out of place, and I could see dishonor being something of a deterrent for that, and I think that would be a good thing. So the other part of the PvP system, with the type of rewards being there, that means that maybe some rewards are no longer gated behind a rating. And this could make some people mad because they might feel like, well, I have these rewards because I'm this good. But, you know, I don't think any of those rewards, except for the special gladiator rewards, are anything that you can't get anyway without, you know, being carried in battlegrounds and stuff like that. So I don't see that being a real problem. I just see some people complaining about it, even if it's not a real thing to complain about. There's also the pre-expansion launch event in the Broken Isles. I think that sounds amazing. I'm really looking forward to doing that, and I hope that there's some cool rewards. If they're going to make rewards in the game that are going to leave forever, they might as well do them while I'm going to be there to get them. So I hope that I can get them all, and I kid you not, you guys, I still have some freaking necrotic runes in my bank from the Lich King launch event, just in case one day Blizzard brings something back and my, you know, 65 necrotic runes are good for it. I'm not making this up. I have 60-something necrotic runes in my bank right now, and I've kept them there ever since. I still have a lot of stuff like that. If Blizzard's going to make another tab for crap you want to keep, I really hope they put a tab for trinkets. Because I have a lot of trinkets that, like, let out lost puppies and stuff like that and shoot rainbows that I'd really kind of like to be able to use, but I don't want to have to keep switching out and carrying around with me. So a trinket, or a way to turn trinkets into toys, would be really cool. I think that maybe once an expansion comes out, any of the trinkets from the previous expansions, you should just be able to, like, convert them into a toy and use their toy effect. That'd be awesome. People, please bother Blizzard for that. I think that needs to happen. Another thing that is coming with the expansion that I think will be pretty cool, pretty fun, potentially a problem if it's not handled well, is all the lore. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. We've got Illidan, we've got Gold Daniel, we've got Ajara, and we've got Xavius, I think is his name, the King of the Satyrs, and the whole Emerald Nightmare thing. We're finally getting our Emerald Dream, you know, stuff, which wasn't the way I thought it would go down. I thought Emerald Dream would have made a fine expansion because Emerald Nightmare would have given it enough of a variety to be interesting. But not going to happen now. But this lore, we've got a lot of things hedging up here, and a lot of people are worried that, is this the last expansion of WoW, or is the next one the last expansion? Let me say what I think is going to happen, because there's a lot of things that might seem like they're tying into this being the last expansion, like, well, we're going to need some pretty big weapons to defeat Sardris. Yeah, we are, but I don't think we're there yet. I think that these artifact weapons are just a cool way to progress your character in a way that isn't another legendary ring. And I think it's like, let's take the Path of the Titans ideas, let's take the legendary ring idea and put them together, and let's give people some of the stuff they've been asking for, like Doomhammer and Ashbringer. And I bet you Gorehowl's one of those weapons. I bet you it is. So there's all of that stuff. I think that the expansion is not the end. They've already said that they have a lot of plans, and that they have plans for multiple more World of Warcraft expansions. And I honestly think that until the game gets under like maybe a couple 100,000 subscribers, or maybe even under 100,000, I think they're going to keep it around. When they first started the game, they said that the game would be amazingly successful if it hit 1 million subscribers. That's what they expected would be the top end of it. And it just kept on growing. So if it's amazing at 1 million subscribers, let's just assume that it's profitable and worth keeping and worth developing at 1 million subscribers. It would have to go down a long way, because even the 5 million subscribers we've lost during this expansion, well, let's take a look at this. Half of those 5 million we gained as a knee-jerk reaction to coming back from, Warlords of Draenor and classic RTS hype and all that stuff, plus movie hype a little bit, all of that stuff. That's half of them. I can understand half of them trying it, not for me, and quitting after a while. The other half quit because of all the other problems we are already very, very well familiar with. And so then you're left with the people that are there now, about 5 million something people. It seems to me that those are the people that have probably been around and been sticking with the game the whole time, or close to it, the people that just keep coming back. And I don't see many more of us going away, even if this expansion is bad. I don't see a lot of us going away, even if another 1 million leave during the expansion, because you've got to think about this not as a linear thing, but as a logarithmic thing. People don't leave. It's not like an expansion's bad and then exactly 1 million people leave every time. An expansion is bad and a percentage of people leave. Every time that happens, the percentage is a smaller scoop of people. And so if half the subscriber base leave, the game's still at like 2.8 million subscribers. And that's still more than double what we established as being at least profitable. So the game has still got a lot of life left in it. It's still doing very well. A 10-year-old game with the type of retention and player base that it has, and it still costs you money every month. Let's look at this. Let's be real here. This is a very successful game, even now, even after the losses. And you might think, well, Blizzard's diverting all these resources into Overwatch and Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm, and it's taking away from WoW. Well, it's not. It's actually helping, and here's why. No matter how bad WoW does, until it is no longer profitable at all, it's got all the support it needs because of all these other games doing so well. It does not take near the resources to develop Heroes of the Storm that it does World of Warcraft. It doesn't take a fraction of what it takes for World of Warcraft to do Hearthstone. So those games are just helping WoW have a bigger development team than it has ever had. And so there's a lot of reasons to really be optimistic about the future. Blizzard could still turn around and ook it in the duker, and then we've just got a big pile of duke for our expansion. But it really doesn't look that way to me. If you want to play, sort of devil's advocate, let's take a look at this reverse psychologically. Well, the last expansion was hyped really high, and everyone was like so crazy, this is going to be the best thing ever. And then, but this time it's like people are like, okay, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, they're reserved, they're folding their arms and leaning back a bit and keeping their cool about it, trying not to get too invested. No, maybe I like this, maybe I don't. It's kind of like when you see people in the hall, at school or at work or wherever you are, and there's somebody walking by, and what do? You don't say hi to them. It's like, hey dude, how you doing? No, you just kind of do that head nod thing. It's like, hey, what's up? So people are doing that with the expansion because they don't want to seem too excited, because they don't want people to call them fanboys, and they don't want to be wrong about the expansion. They don't want to get burned. They don't want to love and then have their heart broken. So instead, they're playing it safe. And, well, people played it safe with Burning Crusade. They played it safe with Wrath of the Lich King because it was change, and they were afraid of it. After Mists of Pandaria, they're like, oh, change is great. I'm sick of pandas. Well, now look what's happening. Suddenly, Mists of Pandaria looks pretty nice. So I think that all that stuff considered, there is a lot more to be optimistic and excited about than there is to be disappointed or worried about. But time will tell. So I hope that the expansion does great, and I hope that we can keep a positive attitude and provide as much useful feedback to Blizzard as possible, because that's what they're going to need to make the game great. Thanks for listening. Okay, thanks, bye.